Hey guys, Angelo Esquivel here, back with another review, and today I'm finally going to get to review the SNGL Advanced LED Headlight Conversion Kit to convert your halogen headlights into LEDs. Now, I say finally get to because this set is very cost prohibitive compared to all the other sets I've ever tested. This kit alone will run you about $180 on Amazon here in the United States. That's the most expensive kit that I can find that's reasonable, but there's a lot of good reasons as to why this is priced so high. That being said, let's do a full-blown review because there is a lot to go over with this particular kit. As always, we're going to start off with the technical details. Once again, we are working with the infamous 9007 series socket headlight, which is known to have compatibility issues with aftermarket products. That's why so many LED products that I've tried simply have not worked very well at all. Total, and this is a combined total between the two sets, the two LEDs that come in this set at high beam. They output 12,400 lumens. They both consume together a combined 110 watts. The color temperature is 6,000 Kelvin. It has a 2-year warranty and a life expectancy of 50,000 hours. Now, there's a few things about this bulb that are different from a bunch of the other LEDs that I have tried. First off, the actual diodes themselves. These diodes are actually kind of special. They are some of the latest and greatest LED diode technology on the market for LED headlight conversion kits. They are the LED LM27 LEDs, which is partly why this kit is so expensive. LED LM27s, they're really, really good diodes. And you'll see that when we test drive the car and with this installed. They output a lot of light, they're pretty efficient, and more importantly, the diode is made to a very high specification, and they're kind of cherry-picked to ensure that they are consistently really good diodes. They're not just random diodes slapped together. So that's the nice thing about the LED LM27s. Now, the thing about this kit is it is extremely adjustable. In fact, this is the first LED headlight conversion kit that openly states in the description on Amazon that it will work in projector housings and, get this, reflector housings. That's what got me excited. An LED conversion kit generally is not designed to work in a reflector housing. They claim to have tested this in hundreds of reflector housings to ensure that it will work properly. I've already tested it in my reflector housing, and when we get to that part, you'll see, as good as it's going to get in my vehicle. But that's what got me excited. One quick note, though, when you do adjust these, it's going to take a lot of time to get them perfect. Because, first off, you have to understand that the low beams on this particular device, only one side lights up. So what I mean by that is it's either the top or the bottom only that lights up. So make sure you orient them as they should be. That works best in your housing. And on high beams, the bottom set 2 diodes and the top set 2 diodes work. So low beam is just one, like the bottom set of diodes. And the second thing about these are, if you go back a few videos of mine where I tested a few adjustable LEDs, you were able to adjust them in a quarter ways turn in your housing to try and find a sweet spot. The problem with that is they didn't think about in and out. And this is very important because I have here what I use on a daily basis. This is my Sylvania Silver Star. This is a very affordable, slightly upgraded halogen headlight. And you'll notice how it's designed. Now this also has the high and low beams built into it. It's a 9007 socket light. But there is a very good reason why this is designed the way it is. The filaments in this bulb are specifically a very exact distance away from the base right here where the gasket is, because this is designed to sit in a very, very specific manner inside the housing that's been predetermined by the manufacturers and by the specifications of what a 9007 series headlight is supposed to be. So more or less the standard for 9007 was created. Then the halogen headlights for 9007 were made based on those specifications, and then car manufacturers built the reflector housings around how the halogen headlight sits inside based on the 9007 specifications. The problem with LEDs is they have to somehow mimic very well how a halogen was designed, especially considering it's going in a housing that was designed for halogens, not LEDs. LEDs, the way they output light is completely different. LEDs tend to be highly directionalized, and because of that, there tends to be a lot of issues with beam scatter, patchy spots, low usable distance, bad throw distance, just a lot of different problems. But that's going to be part of the next part of this review. Before I put this in the car, I do want to show you how everything comes together. Comes in a nice box. Now first off, as I was saying before, you can adjust these in quarter turns. There is a small, very small screw that this set comes with an Allen wrench in here, and you only tighten this screw once you have determined the exact position that this needs to be in your car. And you'll notice there's little grooves every fourth turn, and this little screw sits inside the groove. It's loose enough right now that it can kind of swing around freely, but tight enough that it does have an audible click if you're really paying attention for it, and you can feel it when it goes into the quarter turn, which is really important. But that's not the only way this adjusts. If you'll notice, and if I spin this consistently, there are threads, and this is a very, very fine thread. Make sure you're careful not to strip it. These fine threads allow you to adjust within millimeters of an exact position when it's in your car. Now, this is very important because, like I said, there's a very specific reason why the filaments in this halogen bulb are the distance that they are from the base of this particular light. A distance, and let's say from the gasket, for instance, because that's how the 9007 specification was created. The goal is to adjust this LED, pardon my pauses here. The goal is to adjust this LED as close to the positions that these filaments would be from the gasket. So if I were to take this halogen, carefully not to touch it or be too rough with it. An hour to line up these two gaskets. My goal would be to try and make those LEDs as close to vertically speaking, in other words, distance this way, try to match them up from the gasket moving up, match the LEDs, and try and get the filaments matched up with the diodes as close as you can by adjusting this gasket up and down. Now, it is a very arduous task to do this. And to top it all off, it's currently raining. So for me, adjusting this was not fun doing it in the rain. That being said, I still went and adjusted it, and I know at what position it needs to be at. For me, and this is how I adjusted it, my set needs to be pretty deep. So I start at all the way to the bottom and onto the last click, and you'll know and you'll see it's perpendicular or linear, or however you want to say it, with the diodes. For me, it was 2 360-degree rotations. That's one. And that's 2. And that was the distance that was best for me. Now, in my situation, and I'm not going to show you me adjusting it all the way in the housing, but for me, the best way was to put it in like this, and then angle it slightly. Well, in this case, it'll be in the socket already, and angle it slightly so that it's on a 45-degree angle in between two of these little notches, which is unfortunate because my housing is a bit different than the housing that SNGL was talking about. Now, they go into detail in the instructions how to place the LEDs inside of whatever type of lighting unit you have, whether it's reflector or projector. Now, here's the problem. They are using, to test and to demonstrate, reflector housings that are circular. My reflector housing has a somewhat proprietary design, which is definitely not circular. It has many different angles and polygons to it, which makes adjusting this beam a lot more difficult. Because with a circular design like this, you only need 4 points of adjustment, each quarter turn being a full set of adjustment. In my case, I really need 1/8 quarter turns in order to get it just right in my housing, and I'll show you in a minute. But when it comes to reflector type housings, they want you to try and get, let's see, there's different types of reflector housings. Well, the point is, they go over which ones they want you to go for, what positions, because they claim they've done the research for you. Here we go. In my case, a multi-reflector type. So they want the diodes going up and down directly. That did not work for me. I had to tilt the top LED so that the high beam LED on top was facing inward towards the engine. So I needed an 1/8 turn instead of a full quarter turn. I'll show you what that looks like, because it's about time to put these lights in. The last thing I just want to go over really quick is, and this should be obvious, 9007 series lights require that you use the circular retainer lock, so that way the bulb stays in place. With some LEDs, you can get away with the socket, or I'm sorry, the gasket holding the whole thing into a socket. But with these LEDs, they are heavy. They've got a nice specialized core to transfer heat, and because of that, they're quite heavy. So the core transfers heat to the fans. The fans are very quiet. And I gotta say, also, just on a side note, these are by far the best and most well-machined LEDs I have ever had the pleasure to work with. So, for whatever that's worth, I mean, this whole thing is not plastic. This is like anodized metal or special coated metal. You know, the connection here is not loose wires, it's a solid fit designed specifically for it. This connection here has a gasket to ensure there's no leaks in between here. The machining on the metal for these LEDs has been done flawlessly, and the diodes are some of the latest technology diodes. So, you saw how the little circular retainer lock goes in place. I have to screw it on, but yeah, you just put the circular retainer lock on first, and you'll notice that this is kind of keyed in a way, and because of that little screw, you won't be able to have full reign over how you adjust it. But once this is screwed in, you don't need to worry about this. You can just turn the LED as you need. So let's go ahead and put it in the car finally. Alright, first things first, we got to get this inside of the vehicle. For reference sake, at the very top of this LED, there is a side with a screw and a side without a screw in it. The side without the screw obviously in it is the side that is the high beams. So that when you turn the high beams, the top ones will come on. So you want the one with the screw facing downwards. So with that being said, we correctly orient that, and then we have to fit the gasket on the circular retainer lock. And then right here is where everything gets plugged in. However, once it's in, it should be a relatively snug fit. You notice it's a little wiggly. That's because we haven't tightened down that adjustable portion that goes in and out with the Allen wrench yet. But you'll notice that even though it's all in all the way, you are able to turn the LED in order to adjust it properly. And from there, you'll be able to go to the reflector housing and adjust in quarter turns the diode for positioning. So, like I was saying about my car, is you'll notice the geometry is very different than the circular reflector housings that they were showing in the instructions. We have a flat plane. We have different angles of intensity with the beam. You know, everything is very, weird going on in this reflector housing, finding an LED kit that works with this car uber ridiculous, but I'm going to try my best. So all we have left to do at this point is find the factory wiring harness and just plug the two things together, make sure they're nice and connected, and there you go. Now, don't zip tie the controller here until you have everything adjusted the exact way you want it and you've tightened down with the Allen wrench, the screws and everything, because this is the easy part. The nice thing about these LEDs is they're super adjustable to your reflector or projector housing. The bad thing about it is they're super adjustable for your reflector and projector housing, meaning there's a lot of work and a lot of trial and error. I've already done the work on my car in terms of figuring out how far in or out the bulb needs to be and what position the diodes need to be facing. Alright, so first up is the door test. This basically just allows us to see the initial pattern and general diffusion in a straightforward distance. So this is the low beams. As far as light goes, it's not really patchy. It is slightly diffused. There's no scatteredness to it so long as you've adjusted your beams properly inside of the housing. So if we go to high beams, see it's a lot more intense, and it is going in a particular direction, which is forward, which is what we want. And once again, the beams actually improve in terms of their diffusion on high beam. I would say that, you know, the door test, as far as this goes, so far results are pretty promising. But the door test is just the door test. Let's see how it looks like on the road. Alright, so we are on the same stretch of road that I test every single set of LED headlight conversion kits that I get my hands on. And right now we are just sitting down a stretch of road that goes along for quite a ways away with a little bit of light coming from the street lights. Not much though, but this is what it looks like on low beam. And this is what it looks like on high beam. Now you'll notice I am using a different camera than I did for a number of my other tests from a long time ago. This camera picks up light a little differently, so you have to bear with me, but of course I'll be narrating through everything. For a two-sided LED, it has really good diffusion. It's almost as good, if not as good, as four-sided corncob LEDs. And that's saying something, because two-sided LEDs generally just do not produce a flat, diffused pattern of light. That being said, this is the low beam, and the lights do not go very far. This is the high beam, and it makes things a little brighter, but it does not really increase throw distance. And before you go crying, well, Andrew, you should have adjusted it more, trust me, I've been adjusting it for the past few hours. This is actually the first set I've felt good enough taking on the highway and really trying them out there. I've taken them to roads I've never been on, I've taken them around the city, and I've taken them down the stretch of road that I'm going to show you that I take all of my LEDs down. But for whatever reason, no matter how much I adjust them, no matter how much I toil with them and try to figure things out, they just don't really produce all that much light, which is a bit unfortunate. That being said, that certainly is not the end of the test. Let's go for a drive. Starting out in low beam, let's see what the camera can pick up. Now the nice thing about this camera is it's really only picking up what the LEDs are throwing down. Not much more than that. Notice it is a dark area. It is almost midnight. So try to get it as dark as possible when I do these tests. And for this test, as we go down, we'll turn on the high beams. We are driving towards a part of the neighborhood that has the least amounts of assisted lighting, meaning there's no street lights and people generally don't keep their lights on their house on at this time of the night in this area. So we'll be able to see what these lights can actually do on their own. And we are almost there, and I will be sure to take pictures in night mode, and it will be in the description so you guys can see even more clearly than in video what to expect out of these lights. So, we do have a train coming in the other direction. Now, unfortunately for this part of the video, there really is so little light that my camera can't pick up much in video mode. I will provide pictures. If you're on Amazon, you should see some pictures in the section of my review somewhere, or in the customer image section of the web page. If you're on YouTube, you should be able to find links to the pictures in the description. If you're viewing on Amazon, just know that there is a 4K resolution video of this review if you want to see everything in more detail. But let's continue. And down here in this darkness, I really do need to keep the high beams on because you can't really see all that much. Going down to low beams just doesn't cut it for an area this dark. And sure, you can continue to adjust them. You can continue to fiddle with them and see, if you get better results here and there. But it's just one of those situations where no matter how much you try, it just doesn't seem to work. But we are going to go down the road that I will go back and forth between high and low beam on, and we'll see. For a set of LEDs that boast some of the best diodes on the market and a very high lumen output, it's very disappointing to see just how little light these truly put on the road. So I'm going to turn down this street right here. Now, I'm going to go back and forth between everything here. This is low beam, this is high beam, 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 low beam, high beam, low beam, high beam, low beam, high beam, low beam, high beam. Now, I bet you're wondering, Andrew, what if you were to go against the recommendation of the instructions and place them vertically instead of horizontally in your housing? Well, my good friend, I have already thought of that, and I've already tried that. What I get with that combination of settings is a bunch of lights that gets shot to the left and right, but nowhere downstream, which is unfortunate. Now, like I was saying before, I have taken these lights on the highway, and unfortunately they suffer from what I would imagine to be really bad glare. And the reason I say that is I was driving down the highway, and I was looking to the left and right, and all the signs on the highway are reflective to a certain point so you can read them easier at night. Now, I was a fair bit of a distance away, and even when I got really, really close, the sign was reflecting a lot of light. So by the time the car was just about to pass the sign, it was still reflecting light, which means even though to the naked eye you don't see a lot of light coming out from the left and right, there is a ton of it that you're not seeing, which means with this set being a two-sided set, that's one of the downsides, is there's not a lot of adjustments in a reflector like mine when it comes to
left and right. You have to choose between vertical or horizontal, and sometimes you have to find something in between, and even then, the way the diodes light up, it's one side lights up and then the other side lights up as well on high beam, so both sides light up on high beam, one side lights up on low beam. Sometimes I wonder, well, if they had it so that one diode on each side was lighting up during low beam and then two diodes on both sides light up during high beam, if that would make a difference. It's little design ideas like that, or a lot of two-sided LEDs have reflector units built into it for the high beams to kind of mimic further what certain halogens do. And there's so many ways to go about it, but two-sided designs never seem to really work in reflector housings. And because of that, you get a lot of left and right. You get a wider field of view, a larger beam, or a larger arc beam, and a larger arc of light, I should say, that goes outwards that you're not seeing, which means everyone coming towards you is being blinded. That's a problem. So you're going to get a lot of people flashing their lights at you. I really did want this set of lights to work, because this seemed like the most promising set that you could buy. The reality of this situation is this: it still doesn't work. Not in my reflector housing. Thing is, though, there's so many points of adjustment that if you were to use this in a type of reflector housing that is exactly like the one in the instruction booklet, where it's just a straight up spherical design, maybe it might work. If you have a projector housing, I'm assuming that it should work for you, given all the adjustable things about this set. If you're on a reflector housing, man, there's so many different types of reflector housings. And the thing is, they say that they've tested it in hundreds of different housings to ensure that it'll work. The problem is they don't list which housings they've actually tried it in. So you never get to see the design of the housings that it was tried in. And if you can't see the designs of the housing they've tried in, you can't determine if maybe it won't work for you, like it's not working for me. The light output is poor, the throw distance is bad, the diffusion is really good, the design is getting so close to being what it needs to be, but it's just not there, and it just doesn't justify the price in my book.